Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a boy named Ravi. He was young, full of energy and curious about everything around him. But recently, life had left him confused. He didn't know what to do with himself. Everything seemed complicated, and no matter how hard he tried, nothing made sense anymore. Ravi would often sit by the river near his home, staring at the water as it flowed calmly by, wondering how everything could feel so peaceful when his mind was so full of worry. He didn't know where to go, who to talk to, or how to figure things out. One evening, as Ravi was sitting by the river, an old man passed by. This man was a traveler, known for wandering from village to village, sharing stories and wisdom. He looked at Ravi and saw the confusion written on his face. "Why do you sit here with such a troubled look, young one?" the old man asked kindly. Ravi, startled, looked up at the man. He hesitated for a moment before speaking, not sure if anyone could help him, but something about the old man's gentle voice made him feel safe. I don't know what to do," Ravi said softly. "Life feels so hard right now. No matter how much I think about it, nothing makes sense. I feel lost." The old man smiled, his eyes warm with understanding. He sat down beside Ravi, gazing at the flowing river. The old man said after a moment, "I once felt just like you, but I learned a lesson from the great Buddha himself, and it changed everything for me." Ravi's eyes widened. He had heard stories about the Buddha, but he never thought someone like him could learn a personal lesson from such a wise teacher. The old man asked, "Would you like to hear the story?" Ravi nodded eagerly. Maybe, just maybe, this story would help him understand what to do. The old man cleared his throat and began. "Many years ago, when I was just a little older than you are now, I found myself in a state of deep confusion. I couldn't decide what to do with my life. I had so many questions, but no answers. Every day felt heavier than the one before. One day, I decided to seek out the Buddha. I had heard of his wisdom, and I thought maybe he could help me make sense of my confusion. I traveled for days, walking through forests, crossing rivers and climbing hills. Finally, I reached the place where the Buddha was staying. There were many people there, all gathered around him, waiting for a chance to hear his words. I was nervous, but I knew I had to ask my questions. So, I waited patiently, and when it was my turn, I stepped forward. The Buddha looked at me with such calmness that it felt like he already understood everything I was feeling. But I spoke anyway. "Buddha, I am lost. My mind is filled with so many questions. I don't know what to do with my life. I don't know which path to take. I am confused and unsure of everything. Please help me find the answers." Buddha looked at me for a moment, then smiled softly and said, "Let me tell you a story." And this is the story he told me. Once there was a young man, much like you, who was filled with confusion. He felt like life had placed him in a maze with walls so high he couldn't see the way out. No matter which direction he turned, he felt stuck. One day he decided to visit a wise old man who lived at the top of a mountain, hoping to find clarity. He climbed the steep path with great difficulty, thinking that once he reached the top, all his problems would be solved. When he finally arrived, exhausted but determined, he found the old man sitting quietly under a tree, sipping tea. The young man bowed respectfully and said, "I am confused. My life doesn't make sense, and I don't know what to do. Please, tell me the answer to all my problems." The old man looked at the young traveler and replied, "Before I give you any advice, come have some tea with me." The young man, though impatient, agreed. He sat down, expecting the tea to come quickly, but the old man took his time. He moved slowly, heating the water, preparing the leaves, and carefully pouring the tea into 2 cups. As the old man handed the young traveler a cup of tea, he said, "Tell me, how does the tea taste?" The young man, surprised by the question, took a sip. He said, "It's warm, soothing." The old man smiled. "Good. Now let me ask you this. When you were climbing the mountain, what were you thinking?" The young traveler hesitated. "I was thinking about reaching the top. I was focused on finding you and getting the answers to my questions." The old man nodded. "And what about the path you were walking? Did you notice anything?" The traveler frowned. "Not really. I was too focused on getting here. I didn't think much about the path itself." The old man took a deep breath. "That is your problem," he said gently. "You are so focused on the future, on finding the answers, that you forget to notice the present moment. Life is not just about reaching the destination, but about experiencing the journey along the way. Every step, every breath, every moment you live is part of the answer you seek." The young traveler was quiet, thinking about the old man's words. The old man continued, "Confusion comes when we try to control everything, when we think that the answer lies somewhere far ahead, hidden in the future. But the truth is, the answer is often right in front of us, in the simple act of living. It's in the tea we drink, in the air we breathe, in the people we meet along the way. If you slow down and stop trying to force the answers, you will see that life has been showing you the way all along." The young traveler looked down at his cup of tea, realizing that while he had been so focused on finding the answers, he had forgotten to truly live the moments that were passing him by. The old man smiled. "Remember, life is like this cup of tea. If you rush, you'll miss the warmth. But if you take your time, you'll find peace in the simplest things. Answers come when we are patient, when we let go of the need to control everything, and when we open ourselves to the present moment." The young traveler bowed deeply to the old man, understanding now that the wisdom he had been searching for was not in some faraway place, but in the way he chose to live each day. And with that, the young traveler left the mountain, not with all the answers, but with a newfound peace in his heart, knowing that life itself was the greatest teacher. The Buddha finished his story and looked at me with that same calmness. He said, "You see, young man, life is not meant to be figured out all at once. It is meant to be lived. Confusion is part of the journey, but if you focus too much on where you want to be, you will miss the beauty of where you are right now. Slow down. Breathe. Trust that the answers will come, not when you chase them, but when you allow yourself to experience life fully." I left the Buddha that day feeling lighter, not because I had all the answers, but because I understood that it was okay not to know everything. It was okay to be confused. Life is not a race, and the answers come when we learn to be present. The old man paused, looking at Ravi, who was listening intently. The old man said softly, "So, young one, don't worry so much about figuring everything out right now. Life will unfold as it's meant to. Trust that with time, the answers will come, but in the meantime, live. Don't rush through the moments, enjoy them, experience them. And when you feel lost, remember the cup of tea. Slow down, and the warmth will find you." Ravi sat in silence, letting the old man's words sink in. He didn't feel completely certain about his future, but something inside him shifted. He realized that maybe, just maybe, he didn't need to have all the answers right now. Maybe he could simply focus on living each day as it came and trust that everything would work out. He looked up at the old man and smiled. "Thank you," Ravi said, his voice soft but sincere. The old man smiled back, patting Ravi on the shoulder before standing up to continue his journey. As the old man walked away, Ravi turned back to the river, watching the water flow. It still moved just as calmly as before, but now Ravi felt a little calmer too. He didn't have all the answers, but that was okay. For the first time in a long time, Ravi felt at peace with his confusion.